Alberto Del Rio has claimed he's returning to WWE. Has a Raw Stars brand new push been scrapped? And we got an injury update on a top Impact Wrestling star. Stay tuned. Right, we're kicking off with some Del Rio news. We're not going to spend too long on this at all because the guy's a total dick. Right. Observer reporting that Alberto is telling people that he's going back to WWE. Dave writes, I don't believe this at all, but Alberto El Patron is telling people that he's going to WWE when his legal situation regarding the alleged assault on an ex-girlfriend in San Antonio is cleared up. It would actually shock me if WWE would use him, not that anything is impossible, and WWE could get away with it, while any other US company would be chastised for it. But I don't think that's a direction that makes any sense for them at this point. This isn't the first time that Alberto has pulled this, is it? Nah, he's said before, and I think he's teased on social media before, that he's going back WWE.
You know what he's trying to do? He's either trying to drive up prices on the indies, he's trying to stoke some sort of interest, and he's trying to do that thing where, you know, a wrestler will tweet out a dream match and then it picks up steam online and everybody's tweeting about it and WWE can't ignore it, except you're Alberto Del Rio. You're a dick. Nobody wants you to return.
Match involves Alberto Del Rio.
Well, this is
Alberto Del Rio.
I meant that kind of hype, you know, where people are like Riddle's kind of like Goldberg, and it builds and builds. But he's never going to have that because he's a dick.
They wouldn't touch him with a pooey stick. No chance. I know Dave mentions there that they could get away with it, but actually, where's the value? This isn't like somebody who's had a troubled legal past before that they can bring in, like a Stone Cold, right, with the domestic stuff that they can bring back. And he will do numbers. This is Alberto Del Rio. He was a failed experiment to begin with.
And then they brought him back, and it didn't really pan out that well that time either. Like, no, he's never been that big kind of, you know, driving personality that people have got behind since he's been returning, and you know,
I can't think of many more people in wrestling that are as universally hated as much as Del Rio. Anyway, let's move on to a Raw star who it looks like has had his push scrapped. So you may have seen the recent vignettes teasing an all-new direction for Elias. He burned his guitar, and he was like, WWE stood for Walk with Elias, but Elias is dead, and it was all very serious. It wasn't the fun-loving Elias that we all adore. No, it was clearly a new direction.
I'm done.
I mean, anyone would feel the same way. So, according to Meltzer again, WWE had high hopes for this shift in character. So he's talking about the draft here, because Elias right now is a free agent. He wasn't part of the 2021 draft. And it's written, others not drafted include Elias, who for a few weeks was being groomed for a big return with the idea that he would be a serious title contender, and then suddenly the vignettes dropped. To be honest, I totally forgot that was happening.
Yeah.
Until this was written. Like, I remember seeing the vignettes on it.
I read this and I went, oh yeah, he burned the guitars. Like, that was, my brain just sort of shut it out. Are we getting an Emelina situation? Is it Elias Alina?
I don't think so.
Like, is he just going to rock back up with the guitar?
Probably going to work on the character. I think he's a really... I don't think he's like a hugely valuable guy, but I think he's got a lot of potential still. I think he's a great character. I think he's one of the few people that have served better on the main roster than NXT.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know, it's one of those things, we haven't had that big tonal shift with Elias yet, and you can do it in many, many, many different ways. Of course, the easiest option if you were going to keep him musical is to do, you know, the artist formerly known as style stuff like we had with Goldust back in the day, right? But it'd be interesting seeing Elias completely removed from that gimmick, with an all-new look and feel. Like, that would be huge, I think. That would really get people excited.
Who knows when we'll see him next? It's an interesting one that he just wasn't mentioned in the draft. That makes me think that they're not quite there with the character yet. They didn't want to flash up a picture of him getting drafted because he's going to look totally different, and they're going to do it as a surprise. But we'll see.
A big surprise would be great.
Yeah. Next up, released WWE star confirming his first indie match. We're talking about the former Killian Dane. Big Damo will be in Belfast for OTT on October 30th and 31st, making his return to the company and the independent scene. He was, of course, released earlier this year. Good for him. Like, it's cool. One of
the biggest gets for the UK scene right now.
Totally.
I mean, Damo he's got such experience. There's very few people like him on the UK scene that can kind of do the things he does and still be that massive powerhouse, I think. And he's just unique. So it's always good to have somebody return to the scene. And I mean, everything he does on top of that with training. Like, it's just beneficial
Yeah, it's
all
really
round.
cool. It's one of those things that, like, he's big Damo here in the UK, but when he goes to the land of the giants, he just didn't look so big anymore.
Yeah.
Like, just because he's not as tall as the other wrestlers, essentially.
I'll still never forget that
But
Battle
he is
Royal.
unique.
When he
The
came
Battle
down
Royal.
the ramp at Mania 33, and we were all like,
Oh, yeah, right, sorry. Next up, Hell in a Cell set for Saudi Arabia. And I'm actually, like, I think this is quite cool. Edge issuing a challenge on last night's SmackDown. You, me, Hell in a Cell to Seth Rollins. They're currently, of course, tied at one apiece. So this is the blow-off. And actually, this is the way that Hell in a Cell should work.
exactly, yeah. So finally, Hell in a Cell's being used kind of properly. And you're going to expect it to be a great match. It's going to have some sort of big element to it, right? Because the Saudi shows are just big house shows. So I'm assuming Edge is going to get his victory here, but it's hopefully going to be a bit of a barn burner.
I don't really mind who wins at this point, actually,
Yeah.
but it's cool. I wouldn't expect this to have any effect on the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I think they'll still go ahead with that. I think this is just a big match for
It's
Saudi
probably-
Arabia. You want big matches.
Apparently, back in the day, like when they would do bought shows over, like in different countries, some promoters or people they were working with would be like, "We'd really like a cage match, or we'd really like a tag match," and they'd kind of hint at what they wanted. So it could be something that's been asked for, but either way, it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Next up, an injury update on a top Impact star. Just a quick note on Sami Callihan. Saying that Sami Callihan's going to be doing a second feed for Impact. He's moving over to commentary because the belief right now is that Callihan won't be returning until April. Long time away. Hopefully he gets well soon. And we're gonna finish off with some beautiful words from Bret Hart, who's paid tribute to the late great Reggie Parks. Just in case you missed it, Reggie Parks passed away. There's no argument about it in my eyes.
No.
The best belt designer and maker ever.
In history. Yeah.
You look at the stuff that he's done, and Brett's posted a lovely picture of him and Reggie there with the winged eagle, the classic IC title, and the classic
tags.
The classic tag title. And I look at these and I think, like, actually, like, that's the perfect lineup, isn't it? And I don't think that's just a nostalgia thing. Look how beautiful they look.
It's
like,
how
much
ornate they
mean.
are. It's not just chrome logo with a bit diamond. There's depth to it, and they look battered and they look old, even though they're not. You know, when you see them new, they look kind of vintage. Like it's just. There's a beauty to that stuff, and I hope that we move away from minimalism as a society at some point, and we get back to this ridiculous, ornate, massive wrestling titles.
They're stunning. So Brett saying, "Reg, if you wanted to try me, why did you try me?" That's my best. No, that's Stu. That's Stu saying it. That's Stu saying it. So this comes from just in case you've not heard the story. Brett's told it a few times in shoot interviews, and I think he told it in his Hall of Fame speech as well, if memory serves. It was Owen calling Stu Hart, and they had a normal conversation initially, and then Owen, as Reg Parks, started saying, "Stu, why didn't you ever step up and try me, because I could have taken you," sort of thing. And Stu just goes bonkers about it. It's a great story as well. I'm not doing it justice there. And he said, "My dad falling for one of Owen's ribs. Reg always loved that story. I knew him my whole life, and he was one of the kindest men I've ever known. I'll always miss him. Rest in peace."
Rest in peace.
Beautiful words, and absolutely rest in peace. To somebody who's just like. Without a lot of people knowing, he's made such an impact.
The impact of his work, his designs, and everything that's embedded into our brains. Like, you can just see every detail of those belts, because all we used to do
just my
is
childhood,
sit and
right
stare
there.
at magazines, right? Like,
yeah. Anyway, that's it from us. Take care of yourselves. We will see you very soon. All the best. Goodbye.